Hey everyone, welcome to the Splinterlands Town Hall. It is Thursday, April 11th, 2024. We are about 8 days, I think, away from the Bitcoin halving. Generally exciting time in the crypto space. We obviously have a Splinterlands promotion that was just announced yesterday and is going to go live next week to celebrate the halving, similar to what we did back in 2020. We'll talk about that a little more later. It's great to see everybody. And I know we kind of skipped the last town hall, so we got a lot to discuss, a lot of questions, and we're going to try to get through all of it today. Um, so as always, we're going to start off with the illustrious investigator to tell us about what's been going on and what's upcoming is from the tech side of things.
Okay, well, we just had an update, and I think most people are aware that we rolled out the new reward system with the Glint shop and the new card draws, as well as having moved all of the SPS that used to be found in chest rewards into the battle rewards. So, fairly large update. And some feedback, sorry. So we are also going to be doing a small update shortly, so I may need to hop off and do that. But there's been some issues with the counting of some people's end of season Glint that we need to fix. We are also planning to have a up-to-date update next Tuesday. The main thing going out is going to be the Bitcoin halving promotional event, which I expect that Matt will probably want to talk about in more detail after this. We are still doing testing, but hopefully we will also be rolling out the tech modernization version of the battle history page and the ranked team creation, as well as the about page and some of the associated terms of service and things like that, which is good. That'll be a big step forward in getting everything over onto the new client. We'll just have the remaining things will be guilds, tournaments, the actual battle itself, and team creation for tournaments and brawls is going to need to also be done separately. Right now, that's still going to be left on the old screen since there's a bunch of different handling that needs to be implemented specifically for tournaments. So those are the main couple things that we should be releasing in the next main update. And since we just had an update, that's pretty much it. Those are the big projects. We've got other things under that are in progress. I don't know that any of them are going to be ready to release this upcoming Tuesday. There is some ongoing work with the land prefix titles, so hopefully those will be ready to go relatively soon. Probably not Tuesday, but hopefully not too many updates past that. And there's been some work done on land liquidity pools, but I think we want to go back and Nate wants to relook at maybe improving that UI experience or reworking some of that UI experience before we release
Sure,
that.
blame me.
There's other factors of why that's taking so long, but so I think those are the main near-term things. We're going to be starting some serious work on one-click rentals soon, so that should be coming out sometime this quarter. That's going to be one of the major things we'll work on. And that's kind of the near-term plans. There's ongoing work on SPS validators. Don't have an ETA when that'll be done, but there are people currently working on it. And yeah, hopefully we will be able to continue to improve the reward shop. I know there's been a lot of ideas put forth and a lot of ideas that we talked about before even releasing it. Uh, but again, we don't have definitive ETAs on when anything's going out, but that's probably what we'll be working on in the next few updates.
Cool. Thanks, investigator. All right, Nate. Um, do you have any things from the land of creative to share
Yeah,
with us today?
absolutely. But before I do, I'll write the coattails of what Harry was saying in that um, I know people have been waiting a while for some of the land stuff, and I think we feel the same way you guys do. It's taking too long, but I do see some light at the end of the tunnel. I do see some exciting developments. I think Harry, we've included Cryptomancer into the fold now, right? And he's like freaking Mr. Hive Engine. He does this stuff in his sleep, all this DeFi craziness that we're integrating into land. So I feel pretty optimistic about how the rate of production is probably going to start increasing. We did give specs already, which know that Cryptomancer is already working on for the prefix titles and getting that implemented, like you said, in the leaderboard stuff. I know that engineering has the autofill setting stuff, which we have recently revised from our original specs. So to improve and kind of like adapt to how the world is now as it was when we first designed them. And then of course, like you said, there's all kinds of stuff that we want to do with the liquidity pool stuff. I hesitate to call them liquidity pools because I so much wanted to feel more gamified than that, but that's probably where we're going to go with, at least at first. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening behind the scenes with this stuff. I see it happening. I see it being implemented and coded. It's just we're getting closer and closer to like you guys finally getting a whole bunch of cool, juicy land updates to have fun with. Um, Speaking of land, I know that yesterday in Mouse chat, I was like, "Hey, Nate, you better share something, some artwork or something for." I'm like, "Okay, sure, no problem." Here's some sketches for. I don't think I've shared this yet. An outpost. I don't. If I have, then I'm sorry. I just don't remember sharing it. But outpost is where you have all those monsters flying around and stomping around like big kaiju's, and you're trying to harvest their essence from their dead, lifeless, weird supernatural evil corpses. So here's some concept work that was done originally in order to kind of like see how this thing would level up. And then I'll show you a rendered version of a mid-level one of these, which is pretty cool. I can't wait to have one of these on one of my plots of land. So yeah, you kind of that's the outpost, and you go ahead and slot your workers in there, but instead of just like working and harvesting the fields, they're out there trying to like capture these mighty beasts walking around your plot, these invaders from another realm. So enjoyed that. I'm trying to think about what else. Something that Harry touched on, which I think is pretty huge. So our front end developer Mancio, who is working on the responsiveness in the VNext stuff, he's freaking awesome. He's a rock star. Um, but he's working really hard because I think it was you, Matt, who gave him the directive, like, hey, the mobile app, we deprecated that. It is vitally critical that we hurry up and get the mobile web version of this as responsive and as functional as we can, as quickly as we can. So he's head of the grindstone, like go 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 go. So I think he has that update for next Tuesday. Is that right, Harry? I think
Yeah,
so.
that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
We're going to do some final testing today to try to see where it's at. Actually, one thing I need to talk about. Well, we'll talk about it on the call, I guess. If it's ready after our internal testing today, I would like to get it up on Mavs over the weekend for people to pound on before we release it, so that they can let us know if they find any serious problems with the new UI that we can try to address, and see if it's if
Nice.
anybody finds any problems.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was gonna say is that I was we've been so consumed by the having event and just we're just juggling a lot of balls, right? So we haven't been able to properly support Mancio, the design team, the creative team, as much as we would have liked. So what he releases on Tuesday is going to be him like working in a dark corner, trying to do the best he can. In the meantime, I've recently approached him and been like, "Hey, I think we can support you a lot better now. Let's make sure that going forward after this upcoming Tuesday, let's start polishing things up. Let's add the sexy sizzle. Let's add the animations. Let's add all the cool stuff so that it's not just functional. It's not like I can open my mobile and just like I can kind of make it work. We want it to feel polished and beautiful. So with that in mind, this is not how it's probably going to look on Tuesday, but I'll share some of the vision, some of the mock-ups and concepts that I'm working with Mancio on to kind of like try to establish a baseline for where it is that we want to go. And because I'm just trying to help you guys see what I see in my head, where the game is going and where we could end up. I think that's important. I think that's powerful. Is that we always have one eye not just on the issues of today, because we'll work those issues out. That's not it. We've been around 5 years. We survived 5 years because we do listen to the community. We don't ignore you. We adapt as needed when the time comes when it makes sense, and we do what we got to do, not only to survive but to thrive. I think 2024 is the year that we thrive. But yeah, with the other with the eye on one on fixing the issues of the now and making those as good as possible, one eye towards the future, and the future is not that far away in terms of this stuff. So here's an idea of what we're thinking, the lobby might look like. This is what is this? Wild? Yeah, this is the wild format. And that'll give you an idea of like, kind of where my head's at, like where we want to go. This allows some room and some space and some flexibility for when we do come back to hopefully in the future reintroduce a focus system or things of that nature. We want to give ourselves some maneuverability, some room to breathe in the UI, so that we're not going back to the drawing board every single time we want to make a redesign. We already allowed for some space there. We're playing with the idea of animating the background a little subtle, but if it's too distracting, we won't do it. Maybe animate the badge, make it float and glimmer and do something, but basically just add the sexy sizzle, right? For mobile, and how that translates to mobile, we're trying to work out like here's a mock-up of like because we have to accommodate the fact that most likely people are going to be accessing the mobile web version from Hive Keychain, right? I mean, I think that's for those who are interested in the security and safety of their keys and just want to be able to sleep at night knowing that everything is safe and secure. They're probably going to use Hive Keychain, so we have to include that in our design work when we're trying to figure out what mobile looks like. That right there is modern. So modern format in mobile. We're trying to figure out how do we get this thing responsive? How do we make sure that players have quick and easy access to the functionality and features that they need. Mostly, using their thumb or one hand if need be. So we'll see where we end up. A lot of the mock-up stuff, it may not ever make it, but some of the stuff we're hoping it can. So we're just kind of like to be determined. Some of this stuff is like conceptual and some of it is actually happening. Like Mancio is literally coding it right now. So we'll see what hits the cutting room floor and which stuff makes it into development. Hopefully, what actually makes it into live production will be even better than what I'm sharing. So good news there. But I think that's good news for anyone who believes strongly that the mobile part of the game is critical to the long-term health and sustainability and how we attract new players and how they interact with the game. I like take me for instance. I would love to have a beautiful polished experience when I'm at the grocery store. One hand on the cart, one hand on the phone, and I'm just like playing a quick game real fast, and it's intuitive and it's easy, and I don't need both hands, and I'm not like squinting to see how this tiny text and all this stuff. So we're working on it. Believe me, don't worry, we're working on it. Trying to see what else we got going on. We could talk about well here we could I we are continuing to work on the onboarding. That's a huge exciting part about land. I mean, not about land, about the game, about 2024, about our new direction this year. So one of the art pieces that jumped out at me is this is when you are have entered the academy as a new player and you are learning what it means to be a battle mage, what it means to fight in the arena, and you are up for training, and you're looking at other recruits training in this little. It's not a full blown arena. It's kind of like this room where they do their training, like the X-Men's Danger Room or whatever. So I'll give you a wallpaper that just because I like it. I like the way it looks and it feels, and I think it captures the moment of like when you're rounding a dark corner in a hallway and you come upon, wow, this is what I could become. This is my role and my place in this fantasy world. So there you go. There is a quick image of a training room with two battle mage recruits going at it, and what that means. What is that? What makes our game's narrative a little bit different? We, unlike Hearthstone or a game where it's kind of like we expect the player to think they're at some table and they're playing a card game. Splinterlands is taking a different spin on it. We're saying, look, we're not as boring as all that. We want the narrative to feel more elevated, more dynamic, and more exciting. So you got this Yu-Gi-Oh vibe going on, right? This Pokemon vibe where you're not just sitting at a table playing a card game. You're out in the world, and that's what's exciting to me about the future, is that as people talk about what do we do about rank play, well, I can't wait to get that finished in a rearview mirror so we can talk about not what happens in this arena sport, but what happens outside the arena in this huge fantasy world that we're building. And of course, I'm talking about down the road PVE or raid bosses and all kinds of cool stuff that we all want someday. Um, and then I'm trying to think what else about onboarding. Oh, I think I shared with you guys a professor before, like a dwarf guy with little glasses and a spell book. Here's another one of the guides along your onboarding experience. This is Professor Montclair. She's an Alkin. And for those of you who remember what an Alkin is from some of the more recent batches of cards, it's the owl race, a race of owl people within the Splinterlands. And I think she looks cool. I think she's going to be a very cool ambassador about leading new players by the hand, along with the dwarf guy and all the other. We have a whole roster of characters that we're working on. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that, like, yeah, there's a lot going on with the game. There's a lot of updates. Some of you guys are excited about the updates. Some of you guys are like, I don't know about this. But while all that's going on, we're still hard at work. We're still hard at work looking at short-term goals, mid goals, and long-term goals. We're doing it all at the same time, and you're going to still see consistent updates every couple of weeks, showing you the progress of all that stuff. Finally, what else do I got? The last thing I have is we're not going to show stats, but this is possibly the last town hall before the next conflict switches over. And for those of you who have been keeping track, the next conflict after this one is going to be for the first batch of the legendary summoners, which, I mean, every set, that's a huge deal. That's a everyone knows that the legendary summoners of a core set can often cause dramatic changes to the meta of how people play, how they strategize, all that good stuff. So even though I'm not going to show the stats today because we're hard at work trying to finalize those, I can at least share the artwork. How about that? So the player known as Lorcus named the character Lorcus. So good for you, man. They're basically putting themselves in the game, which is great. I think I would do the same thing probably. So here is his vision for what he wanted a legendary summoner to be, which is basically a battle mage, which is interesting to me. We don't have many cards where the battle mage summons a battle mage, right? So this is one of those situations. So you'll notice he does have some cards. He's flipping. He's well known. To me, when I first saw it and I saw the description for the character and what he wanted to do, to me it had a very much a Tony Stark vibe. I don't know about you guys if you see a kind of a Tony Stark in there a little bit, but in the Splinterlands world. So as you can see, fire and death, which are probably my two favorite elements. So I'm pretty excited that this is going to be the first legendary summoner. Um, I don't know. We have, since it's been a month, we probably are piled up on the question and answer session. Plus, Matt, I know you probably got a lot to talk about, so I will cut it there. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Well, now I see that it has fire and death backgrounds. Is that just because we haven't decided
No,
which one
no,
it will
it
be yet?
that is one thing that is for sure. It's going to be fire death. I believe that's what
So
Lorcas.
it's going to be a dual element legendary
Oh, that's what
summoner.
you're getting at. Well, there you go. At least there. Yes, there you
Now,
go.
now I also there's another new mechanic that we have in Rebellion. Do we know if the that Lorcas is going to have that or not?
So yes. So for those of you guys who didn't know this, Matt was like, "Look, these things we got to knock them out of the park." So whatever the stats and abilities might be, at the very least, I think it was your request, Matt, or demand, depending on how you look at it, to make these dual element plus tactics. So that's a double whammy right there. The next batch of summoners should not only have dual elements, but also have the tactics decision during gameplay, which just on their own, just those two things already makes it an extremely powerful card, let alone whatever Call Me Tim decides to throw at it as well. So these are definitely going to be probably more than likely must have cards.
Yeah, and with the tactics in particular, I mean, obviously we have one set of tactics summoners, and they're you know relatively simple. I mean, I would really like our goal is to try to increase the value of the tactics. What I see as the real value of the tactics is like that if you pick the right tactic to use, you will win the battle versus if you pick the other one, you would lose the battle, right? That where it actually like affects the outcome of the battle is really important in my opinion, and that's what I know Call Me Tim has been working on specifically with these summoners, making it like, you know, you have to not only pick the summoners when the tactic options are relevant, but then you have to evaluate the battlefield and actually pick the right tactic and apply it properly, and that actually can change the outcome of the battle. I think that's like where the real next step in gameplay comes from.
No,
So I'm hoping,
absolutely.
yeah, I'm hoping we are able to achieve that. To a higher degree with these summoners than the base set of summoners, which are supposed, not obviously the big legendary summoners, so they're not supposed to be as impactful. But that's my hope here is that we see, players who use the tactics properly will win battles that they otherwise would not have.
No,
Um,
I wholeheartedly agree. In fact, I think there's a lot of debate in whether it's social or mouse chat or otherwise, and usually the debates stem around what's more important. Well, marketing's more important. No, economy is more important. No, gameplay is more important. No, it's the lore, it's the cosmetics, it's the this, it's that. I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's all important. It's the companies that have the right balance, and can balance all those things properly are going to reach the highest level of success. And I think that that's again that with tactics and the new legendary cards and with the onboarding experience, so that we can only attract but also retain the mobile, whether it's the economics of how rewards are distributed and making sure that everything is sustainable. Um, um, all of it, an ambassador program, all of it, all of it is important. And if you guys are like, well, I don't care about this, but I care about that. That's okay. Every whatever floats your boat, man. It's like everyone has a different perspective. The good news is the team is working on all of it. Like we have intentions to do all of it, and a lot of it is going to come to head this year. Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, I also am really like just going back to the specifically the tactics on the summoners, like looking forward to when you pick a tactic summoner, your opponent also has a tactic summoner, and then when you're picking your tactics, you have to try to anticipate what they're going to pick as their tactic from their summoner. So I don't know, I'm pretty excited for these guys.
Yeah.
And then this is all like, in my opinion, a preview for what items and spells will eventually add to the game, as far as like really taking it to another level of like evaluating the battlefield and changing it sort of on the fly before the battle starts.
No,
Um,
what I really love
yeah,
about it is it still maintains the rapid strategy approach. Meaning we're not bogging down the game with like 30, 40-minute session. You have a big time commitment, but these quick, rapid decisions that you could make that still change the course of the battle. So I'm totally with you.
cool. Yeah, so we will get. Obviously, there's a lot of work to get those stats right as best we can. So we'll reveal that as soon as we're ready. But not too distant future because it is coming up quickly. Yeah, I have some stuff I want to talk about. I'm gonna try to make it not too much because there are a lot of questions, and I'd like to spend as much time as possible on the questions because that is the stuff that you guys want to hear about, and that's really what we're here for. But before we get to that, the main thing I want to just rehash is our overall business plan kind of this year and since I took over the business. I know a lot of people are currently not happy with a lot of things. I know things are a lot of very chaotic with the current changes, which again was, I expected and talked about expecting that. But regardless, I think it's important that everyone going through this with us understands the high level picture because I had to really sit down back in September when I took over figuring out how to run this business. I just sit down and think about like what are we doing here? Like what is it that's gonna make or break this product and everything. And to me, at the end of the day, it really all came down to can we get a huge amount of new players into this game or not? Right? That's all that's going to matter. If we don't get a ton of new players into this game, we can still build out all the stuff we're doing, and it's eventually everything's going to still fall by the wayside, right? Our existing player base will decline slowly over time naturally if we don't add new players. And there's just only so much money available for our existing player base to continue to put into the game. So to me, it all comes down to growing the player base, which grows the money coming into this ecosystem, which grows the value of all the assets and everything. Now, obviously, if we grow the player base, we get more money coming into the ecosystem. We have to apply those funds properly in a way that you know uh, increases asset values and encourages more people to come to the game and in the game. I think we did that incorrectly over the past couple of years. And I'm 100% committed to making sure that any new funds that come into the ecosystem are directed properly to the assets, for long-term growth. And I feel like that's the way that the company is going to be successful, not just a bunch of money flowing to the company that may or may not use it wisely, but assets flowing into the general ecosystem and the assets, and that will allow the company to do better. Um, so that's like the high level. So then it's a question of okay, how do we do that, right? How do we get a bunch more players in the game? And recently I was at NFTMYC in New York. We don't really do many events anymore, but it's very close to Philadelphia where I live. So I went up there, and I talked to people about Splinterlands. There's a lot of people who are interested, right? And it's really hard for me to show them or get them into the game. They pull out their phones. I can tell them go to splinterlands.com or they look in the app store for a mobile app, and it's just like it is not a good experience. And it's just clear to me, and it's not just mobile, also in desktop, it's a better experience, but still, even they onboard, they come into the game, they create their account, and then they're just thrown into this thing. Figure it out, right? They play battles, they lose. It's just overall not a good experience. And so to me, that's what we've been working on. Obviously, that's what we've been talking about for the past 6 months or so. That's what we're doing. Um, it takes a while. So this is the focus. It's going to take a while. It's going to mean there's less focus on other things, which in my opinion are less important to the overall success of this product. So the plan is to continue to work to make a really great mobile experience, a really great onboarding experience, and then a really great general player experience. That's just like easy to understand and move through and navigate, and kind of and suck people in. My expectation is that that may take another 6 months or so. I mean, not we're not going to be done. I mean, it's going to be an ongoing exercise. but once we're at a point where I think we have a good experience, where I'm comfortable, like anyone that just comes into the game from wherever, mobile, desktop, however it is, that they can get in and get taken through this whole thing so they understand the experience and hopefully become an active and kind of hooked player in the game. Once we get to that point, then I am prepared to go and start marketing and promoting this game in a way that we've never done before. Um, and I think that will be hugely successful. I think there's a huge market of people. A lot of them may have heard about Splinterlands, a lot of them may not. Some of them tried it, some of them haven't. It doesn't really matter. But I want to get, and it's not me that's going to be doing it. I'm not a marketing person. I don't think we have anyone on the team currently that's really a great marketing and promotional person. So we're going to go out and we're going to get people in the organization, that are experts specifically around Web3 marketing, and we're going to make a huge splash. But that's not going to come until potentially later this year, early next year. That's what we're building up towards. But I just want everyone to be like very clear, on the things that we're doing. We're building towards that. And part of that, I imagine, is going to be leveraging our community, right? We have thousands of people here, all of you guys that I'm sure would jump at the opportunity to help to market and promote this game. So our new marketing team, whenever they join and start, I expect that one of the things they're going to be doing is helping to point the community's energy in the right directions, to make a big splash. So I wish it was now. I wish it was 6 months or a year ago. I can't change the fact that we have limited resources and limited people, and we're moving on these things as fast as we can while also running a live game. It would be a difference. Like I kind of look at it. Um, like we're sort of it's as if we're building a new game. We learned what we wanted to do. We have our specs, we have our plan, and we're sitting down to build it. And if we didn't have something live, it would go a lot faster. And then we could launch it. But we have a live product, obviously. So we're trying to build this kind of new thing and integrate it in with our live product and slowly move our existing product over to this over time and keep it running as we're going. That's a difficult process. It's like, swapping the engine out on a moving train, to some degree. But that's the process we're going for. And if that's not what some people are interested in, if people want, tokens mooning now, that's not what Splinterlands is going to be. There's many meme tokens on Solana that you might want to look at for that. But if you want to stick around and play the game in anticipation for these things getting completed over the course of the year, and then really starting to push the marketing and promotion and helping be a part of that, I mean, that's what we're here for. So my hope is that everyone, at least if you don't agree, that's fine, but you understand, like, that's where my head is. That's what I think about at a high level. It's more like, how do we get very, very large amounts of new people into this game? And then working backwards from that. That's the goal. Then I got to work backwards from that. What do we need to do to get to that point? And that's what the team is being focused on as much as possible. And we're trying to figure out how to do as quickly as possible. And the second part of that is that, like, this costs money, right? Our team members need to be paid, our server costs need to be paid. So I've one of the things, obviously, the first things I did was do everything I could to cut expenses as much as reasonably possible, right? So that buys us a lot more time. Um, but I also don't want to do what we were doing in the past, which is just keep throwing things out, sell this, sell that, pre-sale this, pre-sale that, etc. So it's made it difficult. It's one of the things that I work on and worry about and try to figure out is how do we ensure we have enough money to fund all of this, right? To get to the point where we are going out and doing the marketing and promotion, actually getting people in, which start bringing money into the ecosystem, into the company. Um, we've put out, well, I mean, we only put out one proposal so far to have the DAO fund the upcoming promo event. I know the DAO didn't want to do that, and so we're selling the promo cards. I would prefer not to sell the promo cards. I would prefer to burn all the tokens, but I would also prefer to, like, not have to, you know, shut the company down, for running out of money. So, that's where we're at. I'm doing the minimum possible amount of new things being put into the ecosystem for sale to allow us to build everything that we want to build. Um, And some people, we've talked about raising venture capital money in the past, and that's something we've been looking at. I don't think that's in the best interest of you guys, the community. The more that I've come to understand about venture capital money, I think venture capital, the VCs and investors in our company, were part of the issues behind things that happened over the past couple years. Venture capitalists typically look for large and increasing revenues all the time with the goal of having the company be sold in a few years. Um, and so that creates a lot of pressure on the CEO of the company to constantly do more sales, get more revenue every month. We can't take time like we're doing now and say like we're not going to have a lot of revenues for a while because we're building out this new thing that's gonna make us much more successful down the road. VCs typically are not interested in that. And there's a lot of pressure to just do more sales and throw things out there, which you guys have seen over the past couple of years. And then it gets to the point of then they want to force a sale of the company because that's the only way that they get their money out, right? To get liquidity. And that's a problem too. I don't think that would be good for the community for the company to be sold, and in most cases. And it's even possible for investors who aren't even majority shareholders of the company to force a sale of the company. And that's something investors, may ask for or require to give us funding, which I think would be very bad for the players and for the community. So my goal is to make this happen without being beholden to more VC investors, and to make sure we can do what is really best for the community and the ecosystem over the long term, and not have this overhang of like needing revenue every month, and talk about like exits for the company. I really want all the value to go toward the SPS token and the assets more generally, and not have this like sort of conflict of interest between the equity and the assets in game. So that's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm trying to do. I think we're in a good position to do it. We have a decent cash position for a while, and we're looking into some options, to get some more cash in a way that doesn't like put unnecessarily restrictive, you know, constraints on us and what we do. Um, one thing maybe, in the future, if we are getting low on cash, we may go to the DAO, which I know hasn't been very open to helping use its cash to fund us, but at some point it may be necessary, and I'll we'll let everybody know if that's the case. But right now, I think we're fine, and we do plan to do some of these promo card sales over the course of the year. So just letting expect that. Um, as a way to bring in at least some money to make sure we can keep this going. Um, so that's the high level overview, and then for more specific things, obviously the big thing that's been going on is all the ranked changes and ranked reward changes. I mean, I talked about I expect these things to be chaotic. They're major changes to how the entire ranked play in the game works. I wish it could be less chaotic, but I don't know how to do it any better way. And even a lot of the salt and the complaints that we get, I don't see a lot of suggestions. In some cases I do, but in a lot of cases, it's just like this sucks. I don't like this or whatever. But in my opinion, this is all like a necessary process to get us to a better place that will allow us to get in a whole bunch of new players and have them have a good experience. Um, so we're looking at the Glint stuff, and I think after this first season is done, we will have very clean, clear data to look off of, and then make some changes. And I think we agree with a lot of the stuff a lot of people are asking for in the Glint shop. I think I agree that there should be options to buy at least like rarity draws, like a draw that gives you a guaranteed legendary card. And the glitch shop is very configurable. So we can easily add stuff like that. And I expect that things will be added. There may be opportunities even to buy specific individual cards. Like all these things that people are saying, oh, it'd be cool to have this in the shop. We can do those things. And we're probably going to do a lot of them. So look for a lot more items to be available in the shop going forward. We're also going to look at tweaking the costs and like how often it resets when prices go up. I just wanted to be very careful we didn't you know overdo things initially. So I guess we erred on the side of caution, and we're going to look at the data and open things up. But one of the things that's very encouraging to me, which I was hoping for with all these changes, is I think it actually makes it much, much easier now to get an overview on what's going on in the game. Right now, with all the other restrictions and different things removed, everyone basically has the same goal. Everyone's doing the same thing. They're playing, and their goal is to move up in the ranks, right? There's no like all these different people. Some are trying for the leaderboard, some are staying in a certain league, some are, it's like it's much simpler. So I feel like we're able to easily like understand what's going on, which drives the changes. So the I think the biggest issue with the ranked rewards change or the ranked battle changes right now is just kind of the disparity in wild and modern versus the type of decks and the type of players there, which is basically bots versus no bots. But in wild, you have a ton of very low level bots with lower level cards. And the rating system is sort of like a curve in a way. Where you end up in the rating system is really where you have like what percentile of the decks or the players in that format you compare to. So in Wild, since there's so many low level, low card decks that are playing, it's very easy for people to move very high because you're being compared to all those. In Modern, the opposite is true. The vast majority of the people that play in Modern have like max level decks. So even if you have, close to a max level deck, um, you're still lower down in the rating. So these are because you're just compared to all these other accounts. So that's one thing that's very easily identifiable, and then we're going to work on it. So the first thing we've talked about is we're going to allow accounts that don't earn any rewards to be botted in Modern. And since they don't earn any rewards, my guess is no one other than us are going to do that. So we talked with the Archmage team, and they've agreed to run a bunch of accounts that we've set up and we've put cards in, and actual cards. We're not like just printing more cards or anything like that. So we've used actual cards that we have, um, in these accounts, and they are going to start running bots at different like lower levels in Modern to try to even that out. And the accounts have no spell book to ensure that they can't earn any rewards in any way, shape, or form. And I think as we see how that's working, we're going to look to expand more and more accounts to do that. Just so in Modern, there's a much more even distribution, and players are playing against opponents with similar level cards and decks, and it'll allow people to move up to higher levels without needing to have max cards. And then we're also going to look at Wild and see how we can adjust things there to get to make it harder to move up as much as it is right now. Um, so yeah, I think that those non-earning bot accounts are going to be very helpful. And again, this is all just until we get a lot more players in the game. If ultimately we're successful with our plan of getting more players in the game, most of the new players will likely go to Modern, and most of them will not have max level decks. So that this will naturally work itself out. And my expectation is we'll be able to stop running these bots at some point in the future. But in the meantime, it's really important to add that match liquidity, especially at the lower and mid tiers of Modern League. Um, so I get that there's a lot of changes happening. I get that it's frustrating to some people. We're doing the best we can, honestly, to make this happen in as smooth a way as possible. But I'm I'm dead set on making it happen because I feel like it's ultimately, the right way to go long term. And we're just going to go through and we're going to look at the problems and we're going to fix them one at a time. But I don't want to rush also. So I want to take our time and look at data and come up with the best ways to do things, even if that means players are getting less rewards for a little extra period of time. I want to make sure we take our time and kind of get it right. So that's what we're trying to do here. Um, we also have the Bitcoin halving event, the Barron's Bounty halving event that we announced is starting after maintenance next Tuesday. There's going to be no limits on the amount of cards that can be sold, so you don't have to rush in and buy immediately after the site comes out of maintenance. There will be benefits. You'll get more like of those reward points for buying within the first 24 hours. And so basically every time you purchase one or more of the promo cards, you'll get points that you can earn. You can win prizes, and you can also get on the leaderboard. So definitely, if you are planning to buy some, I'd recommend buying in the first day when you get 3x points. But you don't have to rush and refresh the page frantically to see when we come out of maintenance. You will have 24 hours to get your purchases in, and there'll be no advantage to being, first versus, after 23 hours in that sense. So I think that'll be a fun event. I think those are cool, two cool new promo cards that you can only get from the event and won't be in packs, and it'll be a good way to generate some much needed revenue for the company to keep, hammering away on some of these things. Um, Another thing that we are simultaneously working on is SPS validators. So we do, despite that the proposal, which we didn't put up, but we appreciate the thought. Despite that was not approved, we are just choosing to use some of our own cash uh, to put two really good devs working on validators. It's been a very tough and annoying project to date, with a bunch of different people working on it to a bunch of different degrees. I know a lot of people have been asking about the status of it. So the status of it is basically that the system is mostly built and operating. Like we've been able to run it. It's able to process the SPS transactions and keep track of all of that. It hasn't gone through extensive testing, but it's built and working pretty well. But the work that remains is kind of two areas. One is the entire Splinterlands current game and website has to be updated to use the new validator software to pull SPS balances and everything related to the SPS and voucher and license tokens. So that's a big project, and that's what's being worked on. And then we also need to get it to a point where it's very easy for anyone to download the software, set up, and run on their own, because that's the purpose of this, right? That everyone will be able to independently run this software. So it's not currently at that stage yet. It's still kind of a difficult process to get this running. So those are the two things that our two developers are working on. They're two really good developers, and they're people that I trust to actually get it done and out. So I am very, very motivated to actually get this thing out this year. Hopefully, like sooner than end of year, but we'll see. So that's where we're going with that. And again, a lot of it will come down to, are we able to maintain the funds required to continue to do all this stuff, um, before we are able to get a big influx of players and then more money into the ecosystem. So we'll see. But that's where we are with SPS validators, and I do believe it's an extreme, even though it's not a revenue generating thing or something that, like, clearly brings value directly into the ecosystem. I think it's really important overall that for the SPS token to have that. And then land, obviously, is a big thing. Now, I don't land has been, again, on the back burner to the player experience stuff, because again, I feel like it's one of those things where if we focused all our resources on land, we get land out, it is not going to bring new players and new money into the ecosystem. Land is really for all of you guys, our existing OG players. And while that's important, I think if we just focused on that, we would still have value ultimately bleeding out of the system long term. So the primary focus is getting tons of new players in, having lots of new value coming into the ecosystem, and that will allow us also to then be able to focus much more on land directly. And since there were questions about it, I will mention that unfortunately Farpatrod is no longer with the team. It's not something I can really discuss. It's unfortunate, and it's just part of the difficulties of running companies and dealing with people and human resources and all of these things. I say jokingly that the people who give us lots of salt about things and what's going on, I'd like to see them be in the position of running a company of this size, and how they would somehow better deal with all these issues. But we've had, I think, we mentioned that Cryptomancer is stepping in, an investigator is stepping in. And we are going to get the DEC grain market, and we are going to get the prefix titles out in the near future. I have high confidence in those guys and the rest of the team to do it. And then going forward, we're going to figure out a longer term plan to have a good team focusing on land phase two, because that's where really the real value of land, comes in and will be unlocked. So that's it for my overall update. I'm going to jump in first to the pre-sorted questions. We have like 3 pages of them. And then once that's done, I'll open it up for questions in the chat. And obviously, Nate, feel free to jump in if you have anything you want to talk about or answer.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just pulling up the pre-sorted questions. Oh, you got them there on the screen. Good. Battle Pass. Is it possible to introduce a system where Battle Pass is available to play in ranked, and those who buy Battle Pass gets cards and chests which are not soulbound? Those who don't buy the pass can still play ranked, but will get soulbound cards and chests. I mean, yeah, it's definitely 100% possible, but I don't think so. For every there's always like 1,000 different things we can do, and a lot of them are cool things. Like, oh yeah, that'd be great. We again have very limited resources, so we got to look at all the things, and I look at them and I say, is this going to help us get a ton more players into the game? And so for the battle pass concept, I think it's cool. I don't think that's the thing right now that's stopping a bunch of new players from coming into the game, and spending money here in the ecosystem. So that's not, well, it's definitely possible. It's not our priority right now for that reason. Next question. Bots are automatically joining the guild. I can't even leave my guilds open anymore. Can we please set a minimum rating in SPS delegation and CP limits to join a guild? Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Guild changes are one of those things that's been on the back burner forever. That might be one of those things that, maybe is easier. And I'm generally very open to, like, I'm not going to set things like that as our priorities, but like team members who think things are important and want to spend some time making smaller changes like that, I don't say no to that. So guilds are typically a cryptomancer thing. If he's interested in putting that in, and is able to get it in along with the other stuff he's doing, I certainly wouldn't say no. I think it's a good suggestion. If I buy SPS via crypto.com or CoinX, is there an easy way to transfer them directly into the game? If not, then wouldn't it be better to support the places who offer SPS for sale ahead of an exchange listing? It's definitely not easy to get them into the game. I mean, I think you have to transfer them to your own self-hosted wallet and then use the bridge to transfer them into the game, which I know is far beyond what most people are able to do. Um, and that's also, I mean, it's not necessarily the specific focus of the SPS validators, but I think having the SPS validators live will ultimately be a stepping stone to getting it easier for people to transfer, to buy like native in-game SPS for through exchanges. That's one of the big reasons I want to push that project. Um, and I know the community's been trying to set aside funds for a tier one exchange listing, but I also am skeptical that no matter what the DAO can decide and put aside funds for, that we would be able to get an exchange listing as things are. So that's why, from my perspective, my focus is on getting the SPS validators live and getting it to be a fully decentralized, open source token network, as the best way down that path. Abilities. Enfeeble essentially cripple, but for melee damage of a monster, doesn't it make sense for it not to be removed by cleanse? Yeah, that's a good question. More of a question for Call Me Tim. So I'll try to forward these to him, and maybe he can just post something in chat at some point about that. But yeah, I think we're trying to kind of standardize the different abilities and effects to like easily classify them. So it's not just sort of random, like what cleanse removes and what immunity blocks and these things, but just have very different, like clear, like this is a physical effect or this is a magical effect, and have it be clear that like cleanse removes all magical effects. So I think that's something that's sort of in process right now, but I'll let him answer that more specifically for those abilities. Reward shop questions. Can the Glint store add more lottery items, then burn 1 DEC equals 5 to 10 Glint at random? It's a bit like buying a card lucky bag. And there's similar machines in Japan. Okay. I mean, yeah, I guess I mentioned we're open to adding a lot more items to the Glint shop, and a lot of different types of items. Different people want different things, so that's one of the cool things about the reward shop is we can offer all sorts of different things, and you can pick the ones that you want. So um, I think we
Well,
definitely want to add some more specific, like you can get these specific types of cards, like a specific rarity, and maybe we can also add more things that give you random stuff.
I just to piggyback, I will say that the good news is because Matt keeps saying we can add more stuff to the Glint shop. Just in case you guys didn't know this, the original UI specs, Tyler was the one to help make the UI design for that. one of the things we made sure of is that the original UI specs given in engineering for the Glint shop included way more than what you see in launch, meaning we allowed for all kinds of crazy things. So the Glint shop is already ready to go to be scaled up to do, like let's say you want to add parameters so that you have to win X number of battles with death in order to unlock this item in the shop, or if you want to give each item its own timer, or you want to, just whatever the heck we could think of. That Glint shop is rather scalable in what it can do, or it will be. And then in terms of the what was the original question you brought? So yeah, I
Uh,
just wanted to point out that the Glint shop is great for the lottery stuff. Um, I think that when we get into the focus system and adding more weight to league tiers or whatever we might end up doing in the future, um, I don't know. There's some questions there. Like, is it a good idea to have people purchase something that is lottery driven that they might be disappointed, or is it better to take that lottery experience and put it somewhere else? Maybe not in the Glint shot. Maybe as you achieve the next league tier or something, then suddenly you just get it. It's just this instantaneous joy, or you get something. You can't be disappointed. You didn't go to a store and spend currency to buy the thing. You just get it, and it's a lottery experience. Like that might be another possibility. We don't know yet, but I just want to throw that in there that we're looking at all kinds of cool stuff and ideas.
yeah, I mean, I expect there's going to be way more stuff in the Glint shop as we move forward. So that's kind of the purpose of the Glint shop. With the previous system, we couldn't offer like all these different things and options. Now we can, and my goal is to do that. The next question is: I just bought in the Glint shop one initiate card draw and one adept card draw. Why do I get the exact same card given for more Glint? Well, that's it's random, right? So you have a higher chance of getting different cards. We are planning to add like guaranteed rarity draws, so you'll be able to know if you spend more, you will guarantee to get a card of higher rarity. If you want to gamble more in a way, then you can buy the ones that have the random rewards. So we will be adding those different options for different people. Is there a plan to make the purchase of specific reward cards, for example, the ones that is still missing in the reward shop, possible? Yeah, I mean that's something we're also looking at. I want to be a little careful not to just make Glint less valuable in the sense that it's like very easy to just purchase the cards you need, but maybe we can do things like there's a card of the day that you can purchase with limited quantities or something, that just is like a random card from the set every day. Or there's been ideas like that, I think, from Nate and the creative team. So we want to do all sorts of that stuff. Um, and so just look forward to that in the coming weeks. Next question is: how hard would it be to have the existing ETH bridge work on Base, the Coinbase Layer 2 network? It seems like a great way to get some Coinbase liquidity without needing to spend a lot of money on an exchange listing. It's not that much work, and I know Patrick and the team are working on getting our tokens on more platforms, like more ETH layer twos, like Base, Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, all those things. It's just that we do that, and it doesn't all of a sudden necessarily get like this magic Coinbase liquidity that comes out of the blue, right? We would need the DAO or the players to add liquidity on whatever market is there. And probably still no one would even ever know about that this token is there or anything about it, just by itself. So my hope is that we can make it more of like some type of launch event and work with some platform or exchange like Dex or something. And so it's not just, oh, we just put it up on Base and it's just there, but actually work with some third party that will help to promote it. If it's a dex, we can say, hey, we're gonna add our token onto the dex and add liquidity there and send our players there. And so they should also promote it to their community. So I want to get value out of doing it, beyond just having a token in another place. um, Grain DEC, when the Grain DEC LP, we don't have a time frame for it, but like I mentioned, Investi and Cryptomancer are on it now, and I trust that they will get it done because they're the type of people who get stuff done. So that's in process. Can the way draws work be altered to account for the player's bad RNG? he's basically, this question is basically asking it if it can automatically tell if you have a max level card and not give you that card. Again, technically, sure. Um, we'll see. I mean, obviously, we have the ability to burn the cards now for more glint to buy more draws, and maybe if we add more, if we add a legendary specific draw, you'll be able to target the cards you want more accurately. So that's kind of the way we're going with that, and we'll see how that goes before we do anything different, I think. Why are super sneak and reach rule sets still popping up together? Is there a reason why these weren't canceled with other problematic rule sets with reach? Uh, Possibly just an oversight. So we can look into just making those mutually exclusive rule sets. Uh, with the player experience being phased in and the plan to increase visibility of the ecosystem in the second half, will the team reconsider its policy on SPL TV and relaunch version 2, a version that won't break the bank, built from prior experience and enjoyed by a worldwide community? Yeah, so I mentioned the plan is to get a marketing person or team in here. And I would kind of leave it up to them to figure out the best way to use our limited resources to get the most people into Splinterlands. I really like Splinterlands TV, but we needed to get our expenses down as much uh, as absolutely possible. So if we're able to bring that back, I think that would be a great idea. But I'm ultimately going to leave that to the people that we have that are going to be responsible for bringing in large swaths of new players. Based on years of data, what was the most cost-effective way to attract new players to the game? I think it was hands down some of the promotions that we did. Some of the things like we did that sesame seed thing back with Tron. There were a lot of people that came through that. Putting the assets on Wax, on Atomic Hub when that was big, tons of people came through Wax. So I don't expect, and this is again comes down to like the marketing person that we're looking to get. I think someone who's really good will kind of instinctively know the best things to go after. But I think it'll be things like that rather than I don't expect that we're going to be doing like Facebook ads and things. I don't think that's the best way to go. But I think finding other good projects and platforms in the various ecosystems out there and doing some really good promotions with them is a great way to get like good new players into the game, and we want to be able to do that kind of at scale, rather than like piecemeal. Uh, and part of that's also like with launching the token on other Ethereum L2s like base, and rather than just launch the token, can we launch it as part of some big promotion that gets like marketing and value out of it when we do that? Uh, about older card sets, I see a growing concern about older card sets losing value in the game. It seems land isn't doing the trick. Does the game have plans on giving older sets more value so people will be more inclined to purchase the newer sets? Yeah, I mean, land isn't doing the trick because land isn't really released. I mean, 1.5 was not even originally in the plans. It was just let's get something out there. Uh, because Land 2.0 is a much bigger project that's going to take a while. So yeah, like Land right now is relatively simple and boring and doesn't do a whole lot. So it's obviously not going to give that much value to old cards. But once Land 2 and the future phases come out, I mean, that's like that entire project is basically built around giving the older cards value, and the exact mechanisms are still going to be TBD. Um, but like that is the long-term plan. And I think, and I also haven't heard like many better ideas. I don't think we can just like go and give old cards value and somehow they become more valuable. It's not we just like decide that old cards now have this value. And even if the DAO decides to allocate more SPS rewards to alpha card tournaments and things, I don't actually expect that will get really anyone to go out and buy more alpha cards. I expect it will just, the same group of people who have alpha cards and play alpha card tournaments will get more SPS, which I'm not arguing is a bad thing. I mean, those people are like, longest term best players that I know personally, most of them. But I'm just saying, like, if someone has some way to magically make it where like this new value comes into the system and starts buying all these older cards, I'm very open to it. But from my perspective, the way it will work is we just need to get tons of more people into the game in general, right? If a lot of more people are coming into the game, they may not buy alpha and beta cards. I expect that they won't. They'll buy a lot of the newer cards. Um, but all those things will gain in value, right? And as those things gain in value, it helps the company. Then we're able to really focus more on land and put out a really good land expansion and get the item and spell cards out. So then we have all these new players coming in the game buying the new cards. Those new cards, part of them are going to be item and spell cards. And then all of a sudden there's real value around land. And then that's when the value kind of trickles down to the old cards, because you need the old cards to create the new cards. So it's like a lot of steps in the process, but it ultimately, again, all comes back to getting lots of new players into the game. So in my opinion, getting new players into the game and new money into the ecosystem is going to solve all of these problems. So that's what I'm focused on, not specifically like give more SPS to alpha card tournaments, and that's why. um
Now, Matt, it might be possible that I mean, who knows what the future holds? But like, I just noticed guy with the Lamacron tattoos. His head was kind of where my head was at, was where like I'm chomping at the bit to get to go to the next phase of conflicts, where we trimmed it down from what it could have been, and we're like, one day I'm probably going to come knocking on your door, man, and be like, hey, can we do the original version of it where it was a little more engaging and had some cool battle parameters and stuff like that, and then yeah, look for some outside the box ways to kind of like add value to older cards, if not directly, then indirectly, just through fun little utility, whether it's idle gameplay or otherwise. So I mean, I think it's possible that more utility pops up for older cards that give it value. But yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said too.
Yeah, ultimately though, if there's not more money coming into the ecosystem, it doesn't matter what we're gonna do. Like we could shift value around a little bit here and there. But like we just need more money coming into the ecosystem, and that's going to come from new players. So yeah, and I think once new players come in and more money is coming into the ecosystem, it's going to create that flywheel effect. It's going to be all our existing players are going to benefit even more, obviously. So yeah, it's going to take some time. Some players may not like the process. Some players may leave. It's going to these things happen. I'm not gonna change our long-term vision for those short-term things. Ultimately, again, like this is a game. It's not meant to be a way to like 100x your tokens or whatever. Even if you're not, like, people are always like, oh, prices are down and whatever, but still, it's you still have value for the cards you purchased, which is different than traditional games. So it's a long term thing. So the goal is people who enjoy playing these types of games, and which the whole economy is part of the game, can come in and participate, and over time, over years, uh, ideally build up a valuable collection of assets, and that it's not a meme token type of thing. It's not even really a DeFi type of thing, even though there's a lot of DeFi elements where it's like yield farming and all that. That's not what this is. And the people who are looking for that are going to be disappointed here. And I feel like that's where a lot of the complaints come from. People who are looking for, you know, multi increasing price assets and high yields and all that. That's not what this is about. This is about playing games that people enjoy and would probably play anyway, and then building up valuable assets over the long term. And that's our business focus also, is long term value accrual to the assets. Um, Let's see, more soulbound reward card stuff. It's so hard to get some specific gold soulbound reward cards, even if I burn all. I think that's supposed to be regular foil. Oh, all of my extra cards for Glint to draw again. Can you make an exchange system so I can exchange my reward cards to my missing same rarity foil cards? Yeah, I mean that's a possibility too, that we could make chests or different things maybe that are guaranteed gold foil cards that will cost significantly more. So yeah, we're gonna look at trying to add as many different options and things in the Glint shop for everyone for what they want to do. Um, Ranked play, since we know it's going to take a few months to streamline ranked play, can you put up a message from the CEO when we log into a game that explains this to players so they can expect some bumps in the road till we get it right? Explaining Discord doesn't reach all the players. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I know there was a pop-up in the battle screen with the first round of changes that just like explain that changes were being made. But I think possibly, messaging is within the game is not something we've been super strong with. I know there's the general daily pop up, but I know everyone just kind of ignores that. Um, yeah, so I like that concept, and maybe we can get more messaging out in the game for people about the process. Um, have you thought about a re-roll option for rewards? Like when you flip the card, the rarity and foil is set, but you get one free chance to re-roll. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I don't see why maybe we couldn't do Glint and or DEC or something and just make it re-roll some of your draws.
I like
That's a
that
cool
idea.
idea that I haven't heard. Um, yeah, so let's put that, Nate, in the hopper of Glint shop ideas.
Sounds good.
Uh, yeah, basically they would just give back your card for a specific draw, and you just get another draw, I guess. Um, so land, I mentioned that Farpatrot is unfortunately no longer with the company. Investigator and Cryptomancer are kind of taking over what he was working on at the moment. In order to get the grain LP and the titles and stuff out as soon as we can, and then we're working on kind of a longer term plan for phase two. Um, with regard to land, will the first iterations of items and spells be beta tested via the Glint store and then expanded to be produced solely via land? I didn't really plan for them to be beta tested via the Glint store. But we'll see. I mean, I do definitely want to incorporate items in the Glint shop into land. Probably not the items and spells directly, but different pieces within land or resources that you would be able to get via the Glint shop. I think would be cool, and we definitely would plan to do as we get closer to land phase two. And then when titles update for land, no date right now. Um, Can we also have the opportunity of earning Glint during guild brawls? Um, yeah, possibly, I guess. Again, there's a plan for a larger guild update, and maybe we can integrate it more in with the Glint system at that time. Can you make an in-game guild recruitment board, or can a guild set where recruiting members mark so people can find it with filter option on guild page? Yeah, that's one of those things. Like if someone like Cryptomancer wants to take a little time and throw stuff like that in, I think those are all good features that aren't like super high priority right now. We used to get merit bonus based on guild store building level. Shouldn't we have this bonus on the new Glint system? Um, I'm not sure what the merit bonus. You get a merit bonus for the guild store. I think you get a bonus to your reward shares, so you get more Glint, right? The higher the guild shop is.
There's a Glint merit specific bonus for upgrading one of the buildings that gives you more merits for winning brawls. It does not impact the set amount of Glint that you get out of the reward shop. There's other big guild buildings. The Guild Lodge gives you bonus R shares, which gives you more Glint, which lets you buy more merits.
But in the old system, if you got a chest that contained merits, did you get more merits if you had a higher guild shop? I don't remember.
I'd have to go back and look at the old code, but I don't think so. I think that was specifically for brawl rewards.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't remember specifically, but in general, if you upgrade the guild shop, you do get more Glint. So there's that. And at some point, we do want to do a bigger guild overhaul and tie those in more closely. Change out the guild shop and how that all works. Um, yeah,
Somebody in the chat said you missed one of the soulbound questions.
I did.
I
Sorry.
actually didn't catch that, but yeah.
Oh, I did. Sorry about that, whomever submitted the question. I want to make my extra soulbound cards delegate to my alt account so it can be played on battles. So that's not something that I would currently plan to do. I mean, the whole idea of soulbound cards are they're soulbound, and each account needs to earn their own cards. That's kind of the whole point of them. Allowing them to be delegatable, even though not quite the same as selling or renting, it will effectively create secondhand rental markets, in my opinion, and kind of defeat the purpose of the cards being soulbound. So the idea is that you can't just use one account to fund all these other accounts, and each account needs to earn their own cards. And you can, if you get extra soulbound cards, you can now burn them for Glint to get more stuff that you might want in that account. Taskmaster just posted about L2 smart contracts on Hive going live with VSC. Do smart contracts allow SPL to do anything it couldn't previously do? Does this open up any new technical possibilities? I don't know, but I am planning to do a call with the VSC team probably next week to just learn more about that and see if there's anything we can leverage. So I'll keep the community updated if there's anything there. Can we get some clarity on the SPS earning cap per battle and how that applies? Depending upon the time of day, I seem to earn between 35 and 50 SPS a win without anything else changing. Can this somehow be smoothed or at least made more clear as for what to expect? Yeah, so in the past, there were issues when the game would be down a lot. The game might be down for like a whole day back in 2021 or 2022. And then the first person to play a battle afterwards would earn, because when you win a battle, you earn a percentage based amount of SPS from the reward pool. So they would earn like just a ridiculous amount of rewards. So we put a cap of initially, I think it was like 0.1% of the pool is the most you can get for any specific battle. Now, recently in Modern League, because so many players are playing at the top of the rating range, they're earning higher percents of the pool, and we're hitting that cap. We recently changed it to 0.2%. And it's one of those things, I guess we'll kind of monitor a little bit. But the goal is, like, as we hopefully get more players into Modern across a larger rating range, that you won't hit the cap anyway, because it wasn't really intended to be hit during normal circumstances. So that's just part of the like tweaks that we're still working on with the new system. But at the moment, it is 0.2% of the current reward pool is the cap that you can get. I see more and more complaints about not being able to stay in the league someone is comfortable with. Are you open to reverting back to having a league lock situation, adding a small amount of Glint for leaderboard rewards? I realize we probably need liquidity bots before that's possible. How are the liquidity bots coming along? So that the liquidity bots should start in Modern next week. And then we're going to hopefully add more of them, assuming they're going well, to get as many as we need. I am not open to the whole league lock concept. I don't like the league lock concept at all. I think it completely goes against what we're trying to do for this game and the generally the best interest of the assets and all of the players. I don't think it's like, people should just you play with whatever cards, whatever level of deck that you have, and you end up at the rating range that is appropriate for that level. That's going to be very different than how it was in the past, but I'm not like, that's assuming the way we had it in the past was in any way good, right? And I don't believe that it was. So I think a lot of the complaints are just because there was a certain way in the past that people got used to, not necessarily that it was like a good way for the system to work. And so I prefer generally, and I think it's better for everybody long term, that players can get whatever level of cards they want to get, and they will be at whatever rating range that allows them to get to, and then they're always incentivized. It's always better for them to get more cards and level up cards. They may choose not to, and that's fine, but I want to make sure that it's like always better and incentivized for that to happen. And I think right now it's been a little difficult, again, because I talked about in Modern how the vast majority of players have max level decks, and that makes it difficult for players without max level decks, and that's exactly where the bots come in. So I don't believe that the league locks is the right solution to the problem. The right solution to the problem is getting more players in at all the different levels in Modern, and so that's what I'm trying to go toward, not just putting back a poor solution. Has Siler started working for the team yet? Has anyone been banned for using bots and or battle helpers in Modern tournament brawls? Siler, we got all the paperwork done, and he's just started just this week. So he is going to be getting started, like today, with that, and working with Royal Eagle to do that. I mean, I can say for sure that even before he started, yes, people have been banned for using bots in Modern. We haven't started banning for battle helpers yet. but that's part of what Siler's, you know, job here is going to be. So that's going to be starting like now. So if you are using battle helpers and or bots in modern tournaments and brawls, you can expect to have some consequences for that in the near future. Next question: can you finally put quality of life over profits by removing starter cards, please? So I I take offense to the way that question was worded, and I don't want to answer it. If it was worded specifically about issues that you find with starter cards and why you think it would be better to remove them and talk about it, I would be fine. But like literally, the company has uh, been 100% not going for profit since have taken over. That's been making it very difficult for everyone involved, for the good of the player community. So the implication that we are somehow putting profits over anything right now is just so ridiculous that I take personal offense to that question being worded that way. Um, the reward multiplier question. I have an account that plays in Wild. Before the changes, it was playing mostly in silver with bronze level cards. My staked SPS gave me a reward multiplier of 5 to 6, but now after the changes, my account reached a rating of 2980 while using the same cards as I had prior to the update. The reward multiplier dropped down to 1.05. That's only 0.5 more than the minimum multiplier without staking any SPS. So it's not incentivizing him to stake more SPS anymore. Instead, incentivizing him to play with as many accounts in low value decks as possible to farm the higher rankings with minimum reward multiplier. Well, so the real question is the reward multiplier doesn't matter. The question is, are you getting more rewards as a result, right? So if you're a higher rating and a smaller multiplier, you may be getting actually higher rewards than at a lower rating with a higher multiplier. So, I mean, if your goal is just to have the highest multiplier and you don't care about rewards, then I guess, yeah. But if the rewards are actually less, then it's potentially something we need to look at. The whole idea of the entire system is to encourage people to move up. So it should be better for you to have a higher rating uh, than a lower rating.
Yeah, that's actually kind of the very last part of the question kind of changes what they were saying from the
Oh,
previous
sorry.
part. They're like saying that that's exploitable and that we need to nerf rewards more for low SPS stake.
Well, so I don't know. Is it? I don't know if it's exploitable. So if it's right. So if even if you have a lower multiplier but you're earning more rewards, then that's not exploitable. I would say it's certainly not any more exploitable than anything was in the past. Uh, but yeah, in general, though, um, you know, the hope is that in Wild going forward, there will be more competition. So it will actually be harder to get to those rating levels with low level cards. So this won't be an issue as you won't be able to get to that rating level in the future. But we'll see if that happens. I'm not sure. Yeah, I see the last line. How about setting the minimum reward multiplier to 0 as a possible fix? Um, let's see. I mean, this is not again, the way this question is worded doesn't actually show that there's any actual exploiter problems. So that's what we look at in the data, which is again much easier to look at right now after the changes. In my opinion, like everything's much simpler, so we can see like is there actually an issue there or not, which is what we're looking at, and we don't even have a whole season worth of data yet. Would the team consider adding a new guild building to burn more DEC? And then there's an example of a new building. But yes, I mean, again, we have a general idea for like a larger guild update that we want to do, which includes new buildings and a lot more DEC or DECB requirements. And that's just one of those things on the back burner that hopefully we'll get to at some point. Okay, that is the end of the pre-sorted questions. So let's open it up to in-chat questions. And I mostly look at Discord in the Town Hall channel, but we do also have the feed coming from, I think, Twitch and YouTube. So I'll try to check there for questions also. And Ron, please just jump in from time to time if you see questions that I missed. Okay. So Moot is saying question from Gank. What is your take on the possibility of the DAO operating in ways that a DAO doesn't operate, like financial deals that are not handled in a trustless and transparent way via the blockchain? In my opinion, these actions can open up the DAO and anyone using DAO money in negotiations to significant legal exposure. Um, yeah, I mean, that's up to players to decide. I think it's very unclear about DAOs and how they're being handled in different jurisdictions. There is a legal entity that is registered in Singapore that represents the DAO from a legal standpoint. But I can't guarantee how any regulator anywhere is going to look at those things and handle those things. So I guess it's up to each individual player to decide. And I also like I can't just go and say like the DAO can or can't do these things. That's kind of the whole purpose of the DAO. So my goal is, and part of like launching the SPS validator nodes is to make everything in the DAO even more trustless and transparent than it is now. So the goal is to go as much in that direction as possible to limit any liabilities that we can from anyone. But we're not there yet. It's going to take a while before we get there, and players need to make their own decisions on what they're comfortable with doing. Uh, Question from Kraken Jr. What's the expected time frame for anti-bot automation measures to show results in terms of fairness, exploit prevention, extraction now that the team hired Siler? Would it be fair to say that a significant part of Splinterland's ecosystem has been shaped by the systems that have been put in place to deal with bots, which also hurt the new player experience and more? Well, like I said, Siler is starting like now. I don't know exactly how long it's going to take for, these processes to be put in place and start, identifying and blocking people. But it's starting and it should be soon. I don't know that I mean, a significant part of Splinterland's ecosystem has been shaped by the systems that have been put in place to deal with bots. I mean, I don't know. That's that's kind of vague. I mean, it's definitely not like a significant part of what we do in the game. It has to do with bots and dealing with bots. It's some part of it, but yeah, I don't know. That's a question that's hard to answer. Question: when the Soul Keep launches green lighted, will you do a town hall with Double Coconut to announce this? Soul Keep should be a key driver of player growth. Yeah, maybe. I mean, as far as key driver of player growth, I don't know. That's up to them and how successful they are at launching it and promoting it and marketing it. But yeah, I would be happy to have David from Double Coconut on a town hall at some point to talk about Soul Keep, but sort of as like a third party game partner. Yeah, that's and anyone also who would eventually want to build a game that utilizes Splinterlands assets and things like that. I think it would make sense to have on a town hall from time to time and talk about the game to the community. So yeah. Um, Question from Silence. Matt, have you considered adding random wild chests to the Soulbound reward pool? And in saying that, I don't mean wild like the other format. I mean wild like they have in Magic the Gathering Arena, a card that can be used as a BCX of any soulbound card. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, just like a wild card that can be anything. Yeah, I mean that would definitely be more development work because we've never done anything like that before. But cool idea that I have not heard before. So yeah, props there. I think we'll think about that one. Um, Question: are you thinking double-digit mana cost for Rebellion Legendary Summoners, or more like 8 to 9? Must be tough to balance not wanting to have just vanilla tactics like the rares versus not wanting to break the game with them versus not wanting to make them too niche because they cost too much mana. Yeah, they're not going to be that much mana. Definitely not double digits. I don't know if we want to say yet because it's probably not finalized, but yeah, I mean they're going to be multi element, which is worth something. But I there was like the untamed summoners were like super powerful, the Yodins and the llamas and the things like that. So you know I think we're looking for a similar power level, but not so like just overpowered in the sense that they're that useful all the time. So more situational power is what I like to think about going for, and some of the things I've talked to Call Me Tim about. So they're like very powerful in the right situations and choosing their tactic appropriately. And I think we're looking to keep them, reasonably costed, definitely not in double digits. Like just because they're multi-element and have tactics doesn't necessarily mean they're like amazingly overpowered. Just by that, they're more situational, which is really, for anyone who doesn't know, like the whole idea about Splinterlands is like situationally overpowered cards. That's what the game is about. Knowing based on the situation, like when a specific card is super powerful or super useless. And so that's what we kind of go for when designing cards is like, yes, this card should be crazy OP, but only in these situations. And you got to both have the card and know when to apply it, or in combination with other cards, or whatever it is. So that's the balance we hope to achieve here. Um, Question: would you tease us with more insight into larger guild update? I mean, I can mention some of the things we had been thinking about. I mean, this was even going back like at least a year ago, and I have no idea when or if we'll get to it. But just you know, off the top of my head, I haven't looked at this in a while, but like revamping, like adding a lot of different guild buildings, tying it into land, the new Glint system, possibly adding things like, maintenance that's required for guild buildings. So not just like you put DEC in once and it just sits there and you're good for the rest of your life. Um, and some different like mechanics and things to make guilds more interesting and like tie into the rest of the ecosystem, like guild leaderboards that like you actually get rewards if you're at the top of the leaderboards. Um, and it's not just like the sum of all the ratings, but there's actually like different things you can do to earn more points for your guilds, like all things like that, just to make them more, you know, engaging. Was kind of the idea of a larger guild update. Can the team check out a video I made with 9 ideas mainly for the Glint store player experience? Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna read the whole big thing, but why don't you shoot me a DM with the video link, and I'd be happy to check it out. Uh, and yeah, I mean, obviously there are already some items suggested here that we hadn't considered, so always open to player ideas. And if they're cool things that we can do, we'll try to do them. Question: have you seen the article put out by B. Jangles and the People's Guild with his survey? I'm not sure. I did see, yeah, I did get the survey with the ranked rewards feedback, and that's something, I've been taking into account, if that's what you're talking about. Um, in the things that we've been doing. I should also mention the People's Guild did a recent episode with the Archmage guys about the non-earning liquidity bots in Modern. So if any of you are interested in that and haven't seen it, go check out the People's Guild. Um, I think it was their latest episode. Question from Simply Mike: are there plans to rethink the plus 20 minus 20 system in rank? The game feels really stale since that was implemented. There's no fun in staying at more or less the same rating all seasons, which happens if you're not a top player and only have a 50% win rate. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I guess there's no plans to change it right now, but as things go on for more, if it seems like it's a problem, then I guess we'll look into it. But I guess the idea is to try to, either improve your play and or get more cards. Is really what's the kind of like beneficial thing for the ecosystem as a whole. So we want to encourage people to get more cards in the game, and again, look at it not as just spending more money as you would in a typical game, but increasing your collection and your value for the longer term. So that's how I would look at it, as far as not just allowing people to just move up and move up without getting more cards, as you see in a lot of free to play games. But here it's a matter of improving at the game and getting more assets.
I
Um,
will say I feel like the rank play will become a little less monotonous, a little less stale once we start. We're able to focus on adding a layer of what I'm calling the layer of meta to rank play, which I don't know when that'll happen, but we are talking about it internally. We're throwing ideas around. We're trying to figure out how can we reintroduce a focus system, which would again make it less stale because now you have other meta objectives and goals, whether daily, weekly, or seasonal in nature. Same with unlocking new league tiers. There's always something just out of reach that you can grind and feel like there's a sense of accomplishment once you reach that milestone. I think that missing meta is probably the void that you're talking about, not necessarily the plus or minus 20, but the fact that meta is we took some of it out, and someday we want to put it back in. We just got to think about how that should look and make sure that we craft it just right is all.
Yeah, I mean, I also agree with that. Like, add more fun, meta things around the game. Question from Dejota, however you pronounce it. Any update on the DHF proposal for validators? Yeah, I mean, it's something I'm working on. I've gone back and forth a lot on how to word that and phrase that. I also am like, if we can't even get a proposal passed from the Splinterlands community, I think it's going to be much more difficult to get the Hive community, which is only like partially overlapping with the Splinterlands community, to give us a bunch of money. But nevertheless, I'm going to try it, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not getting my hopes up too much from that, but we'll see. I think it's definitely extremely valuable for Hive to help ensure that Splinterlands is successful. I just don't know that various Hive whales that aren't participating in Splinterlands will agree, even since many Splinterlands agreed and Splinterlands whales didn't want to fund it themselves. But we'll see how it goes. Regardless, though, we are working. I want to get validators out one way or another. More funding can make it easier or harder, but it is like a personal mission of mine to get these live. So it's not like, if a DHF proposal doesn't pass, it isn't going to happen. I'm still trying to make it happen. Question from Intrepid Surfer. It's an investigator question. So now you are working on land. What is your shared vision for it and priorities?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's a separate vision other than getting out the stuff that we already said we were going to do for land. I mean, the immediate priorities, the initial Crane DEC liquidity pool, which I want to say is basically done, but after going through, it's functional, but we have some work to do to probably make it a little better UI UX experience, as well as put in some guardrails against things like awful slippage. And right now it's just a very basic, like you can swap stuff, get stuff out. As we said earlier, Cryptomancer is looking at doing the prefix titles, so those should be done soon. After that, other outstanding items from what we originally cut from scope that still want to do. So maybe look at doing unlocking soulbound cards. That's something that probably want to talk about. Though priorities will probably be heavily coming from Matt more than myself as to what he wants to get out. Ideally, I'd like to try to get the 1.6 stuff wrapped up in the next quarter or two, and then actually start on the 2.0 stuff. Maybe that's ambitious, but we'll need to also review what 1.6 stuff is still really relevant and what maybe we can just jump into 2.0 and kind of skip over some of what we originally talked about as interim land ideas.
Yeah, and I mean, I also mentioned that like Investi kind of it does everything around here in a lot of ways. So he's definitely stepped in to help out with land for right now and get these things out that have been just kind of dragging along forever. But long term, I think we're going to need at least someone who is going to be able to like full-time focus on land. Maybe that's Investi if he wants to. Maybe it's someone else, but yeah, right now, like, yeah, Investi's kind of like the man of all, or wears all hats, or I don't know. There's some phrase that I'm not getting right.
Yeah, I touch a lot of stuff with the game. Usually, I come in and fix things.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on right now. Well, hopefully, as we knock out things like get the tech modernization of the UI actually done, and start being able to free up people to move on to some of the other projects that we've got queued up. But yeah, hopefully in the next couple months we'll start seeing some of this stuff get out.
Yeah, I mean the just to take a little bit of a tangent, the whole VNext thing is really important, and it's not just for the mobile app, which is like it's obviously necessary for having a good mobile experience, but it's also just like the game currently is like half in one like code base and code style and half in another, at least the entire front end. So it's like makes everything like a lot more difficult. So just getting that project finished up, even if it still looks bad on mobile, will just be a big help, I think. Just cleaning up things and making it easier to update and work with. And then obviously like lead into the mobile experience. So that's a big project that's really important and that we're trying to juggle like getting done in between all the other stuff that we're doing. That's why this is like difficult. We have a live project used by a bunch of people, and we're trying to upgrade like many different parts of it simultaneously with a relatively small team. And I'm actually quite impressed with how our team is doing with that. They're doing much better than I imagined, and even much better than how things used to be with a lot less going on. Um, so yeah, I mean, for those of you who throw a lot of salt on things and want things to be done faster, I do too. But that's the reality of things. Is we're changing the engine out of a moving train without the necessary resources to do it. Um, So, thank you, Investee, and thank you for jumping in to help out with land and taking up even another task on top of all this other stuff. Uh, Question from WizardDK. Could we get an option to not see or not able to play starter cards in Wild? If Wild is designed to be for experienced players, would it be good to remove starter cards in Wild? I think that's a good idea, actually. I mean, the idea of starter cards is obviously so new players can come in and they don't necessarily have to buy or do anything, and they can play and participate in the game. But that doesn't need to extend to Wild at all. So, yeah, I want to think about that one. I think that's a good change. That for some reason, starter cards in general is one of the things I think we are planning to look at and haven't yet, with just generally this whole, rethink of ranked and everything. So yeah, I like that, and we may even decide to change the whole starter card system across the board. But in the meantime, I kind of agree that starter cards don't make sense in Wild. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Ron, for jumping in there. I don't know if you guys can hear him, but let's close the questions out now. I lost track of time. So yeah, everyone had quite a while to get their questions in. But we're going to cut them off. I'm going to do my best to answer the rest of them in the next 15 minutes or so. Question from Vet V. Is there a plan to give ranked bonus for titles? Farp hinted it a few weeks ago. Not for the current titles, but for the prefix titles for land. Yes, they are all. It's in the white paper, the land white paper. They are planned to give bonuses to Glint in ranked, and we talked about that. Cryptomancer and Investigator are working on getting those in. Uh, Question from Mongo Wombo. What is the status on making cards rentable for land? That's like a later one of the 1.6 features. So we're, I think, focusing on the grain markets, the prefix titles, and then that's, one of the things after that. Question, Matt, we love you and the team. Thanks for all you do. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. There's definitely been a number of people in the community that have reached out with support. I do really appreciate that. It is kind of hard to keep going on with this stuff with day to day, kind of like hearing so much negativity. And there's also lots of negativity and issues that happen internally and with investors and with players. And I do my best to try to listen out for constructive feedback, because I think that's really important, without letting tons of negativity get through, and just because that can be very depressing. So I feel like I try to at the beginning of this, when I started talking, my whole thing was like, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. So you should hopefully not be surprised. And we've talked about it before, and that plan may not be for everyone, and I appreciate that, and I understand that. And if anyone has like constructive ideas for how to do things differently or change things, I'm all ears. But I also appreciate the support from the people who are on board with this. And some of those people, you can also express support while also expressing that there are certain things you don't like or don't agree with. And that's great also. That's what makes this project better. So I appreciate everyone who's here to help out. Jedi Alpha has a question. Will the new promo cards count towards conflicts points? That's a good question. I mean, I think they should. They're part of Rebellion. Does like Mantoroth and the Grimbard and Smith count? I mean, those were promo cards.
Yeah, they count.
All right, there you go. They do count. So yeah, so pick up some extras and throw them on your conflicts. Question: Can you bring back the daily quest? It's so boring to play without a daily objective. I mean, yeah, we talked about that. I think the current focus system that we had didn't really achieve the goals we were hoping to achieve, and we'd like to put in a new system, which I know Nate and the creative team have a whole bunch of ideas around, to give daily interesting things that you can do beyond just battles, but in a way that also isn't like in conflict with winning battles. So shouldn't have to choose. Well, I want to use these focus cards, but it's not the best cards to win the battle, and you have to kind of choose between those things. We want to give people like daily interesting things they can focus on that don't take away from them trying to win battles, and so that's what we're working on. Getting a new system in place for that. WizRDK says, I like the idea from gathering the magic to remove cards from draws that are already maxed out in an account. It could be optional, like the option to use potions on draws. So it would be an option not to get cards that are already maxed out. Would that be easy to implement? I don't think it would be that hard to implement. I don't want to go ahead and say I'm sure that's a good idea and that we want to implement it. But it is interesting. So I'll say we'll definitely consider it. I don't think implementing it would be super hard, but I've been wrong on that in the past. Question: Is the team opening to have a small amount of non-soulbound reward cards with the next Rebellion reward card set? A lot of people really miss them and feel like the magic Splinterlands had is missing now. Stories of I pulled a gold foil Axemaster and sold it for 340 and became hooked. Not to mention the free marketing when said person posts about it. Yeah, and then they're talking about offering new draws for non-soulbound cards. So yeah, I think I again want to add a lot more stuff to the reward shop. Some of it may be for non-soulbound cards. I've even thought of like doing a promo card sale at some point through the Glint shop, so you could actually just spend Glint to buy a promo card for like a limited edition. There's only so many available, or things like that. So I would like to add stuff like that and make them limited quantity or limited purchase per account, just to make sure they're not exploitable. But I think because Glint is non-transferable and these things can be relatively highly priced with limited purchases per account, we can do that. And I would like to see some more things like that in the shop. When can we expect to start seeing the new player experience? Will it be released in steps to test or as one large release? Curious about its progress so far. So right now, the development team is busy with lots of other things, and the design team is currently working on that. I assume you're talking about the onboarding experience, the tutorial modules, and all that. So the design team and Nate, you can talk about it a little bit, but they're really hard at work, like designing exactly what we should do and how that should work, and then we're going to figure out the release plan.
Yeah, I would say there's so much to it because we're trying not to be too ambitious, but we want there to be plenty of meat on the bone. We want it to truly feel like you're being welcomed into this fantasy world and you have a role to play. And as far as releasing in steps, it's possible that Nate has these ambitious ideas of customizable avatars and player housing and furniture and all this other stuff. It's quite possible. In fact, it's more than likely that Matt is like, "Well, slow down, buddy. Let's do this in phases. What do you have now?" And I'll be like, "Well, I got these modules. Yeah, let's launch with that." And then keep on going, though. Keep on working. I don't want to tell you to stop. That's usually that's how I suspect things will go. Is there will be phases, um, and I am thankful that the devs are so busy with all these balls in the air right now, because it does take time to create all the art and the animations for something really cool. So what you guys got a taste for in conflicts, with a little intro video clips for each conflict and stuff like that, we want to like do that times 100 for the onboarding experience, and really just add the little cut scenes and the video clips and the characters and the background to it all, just to take them by the hand, not just educational wise or throw a bunch of information at them, but really just in a very fluid way that will hopefully set the foundation for what a lot of people have been asking for in the future, which is like a PvE mode or a story mode. Like if this works well, the template we create now could very well set the foundation for what comes down the road. So I'm pretty excited about it. I'm just as eager to show it as you are to see it. So I would say it wouldn't be outlandish to say that maybe not next town hall, but the one after that, we could start maybe getting close to showing like little prototypes of like, little tiny bits of what it is that we're planning to build and release later on. So yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Nate. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but that's where we're at in the process right now. Question from Key to the Gate. As you're talking about land and old card value and saying better ideas were welcome, I made the following comment on Discord. So let's turn that into a question. 3-league system, human wild, human modern, and bot league would add more use cases to older cards beside land. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against 3 leagues. I just really think a human wild league would really have even more problems than the current human modern league as far as actual match liquidity. Like, I just don't think you'll find matches in that league. I just don't think there's enough players at all the different rating levels to do it. So like, I just don't think it'll work. Not against the idea. I just don't think there's enough to do it. I don't know if maybe we can try to think of a way for like a watered down format where there's like a smaller ratings range or something. I don't know. I also don't generally think it's actually going to cause many more people to buy many more wild cards. I really think for the most part, most of the players in the game, uh, especially the wild card players, the older players, like they have the cards they have and they're good with that. There's some degree of like small degree of getting new cards, but I really feel like we're going to need new players and new money coming into this game, and anything that's just focused around shuffling internally is going to have very limited effects. So that's why I haven't been like pushing for something like that. I wouldn't be against it, but I just don't think it's really going to work.
Well, it's not just that. I think that the same problem might be solved more effectively with when the time is right, the right type of idle gameplay mode. So you got investors who are basically farmers, and then you got Game Boys, the actual players who want engagement. I want to play now, now, now. So we're trying to appease two different demographics at the same time, and and sometimes the solution isn't to cram them into the same room or the same form of game mode or gameplay, but rather when the time comes, if there is a conflict style game mode that is more idle in nature, that allows the people who invested a lot, who want to interact but not interact like all the time, just kind of come in and interact a little bit then leave again, like what land is growing to become. Then I think that, rather than adding more and more formats to ranked play, it will probably evolve into something like that, some other idle gameplay on the side for those who would prefer that is more, maybe more bot friendly. I don't know. So I'm just
I,
that
I
those are
would
my thoughts.
I would really like to see more like older card tournaments, right? So it doesn't necessarily. I feel like there's this thing like, oh, if the DAO doesn't put SPS toward tournaments, then they can't exist or something. But I think there's a lot of opportunity to just do like a lot of old alpha, beta, whatever card tournaments, and maybe for different types of prizes or different types of sponsors or things or whatever it is. Like just because the DAO doesn't want to allocate SPS to them necessarily doesn't mean there can't be lots of those tournaments that can create fun and interesting play experiences for those players. So that's something. I mean, that doesn't even necessarily need the Splinterlands team to make happen, but it's something I may be interested in, like putting some thought behind, ways we can make that happen. And I just want to put that out there, like the DAO sponsoring tournaments is not the only way we can have tournaments. And maybe try to think outside the box a little to get other interesting prizes or things, and make a whole ton of alpha or other old card tournaments.
No, that's true. I've thought about it for a while, ever since tournaments was released, how it would be cool to make it so that those who wanted to create third-party tournaments on their own were a little more incentivized to do so. Right now, you make a tournament, you go through the trouble of making the tournament. Um, it's not really a profitable venture. It's more like you're you got to give all the rewards and distribute them, and it's more of a marketing thing than it is hey, I'm kind of getting paid for my efforts here. So I guess if we went back and reviewed how that is structured and find a way to incentivize more people to be like, yeah, I want to go make more tournaments. I want to create more things for people to do, and these are the people I want to attract to my event. Then I don't know. There's no I don't have a solution to that, but I'm just thinking out loud that that would be a cool thing to review and look at.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also thinking, like, I really want to tie land in more to lots of different areas in the game. Possibly later on there could be certain resources or things you can get in tournaments, and we can have, and land again is like specifically built to give older cards more value. I know it's still a ways out potentially, but that is the goal. So maybe we could have like certain land things that you can only get in alpha beta card tournaments. I don't know. There's ideas there. Let me finish up the rest of the questions. We're really running out of time, and I keep getting off on tangents. Is the idea of having wild rule set in modern completely out of the question? So basically, like the Gladius rule set, allowing any cards to be used, even though it's in modern. I, I would definitely not say completely out of the question, but I'm not sure that would be so great. Um, so I don't know. Interested in maybe some feedback from some players, but I don't know if that's a good experience in modern, for newer players. And also don't know if it really encourages people to get more older cards for the rare chance that that might come up. So we'll see. Interesting idea though that I hadn't considered. Not sure that it's great though. Um, let's see. All right, Byzantinus did not put question in front of it, but he did tag me. So Biz, put question next time. But how about a conditional funding proposal where the Splinterlands DAO agrees to help fund it if the Hive community agrees to also fund a minimum amount? I mean, you don't have to ask me these things. Submit a proposal, if a conditional funding proposal, if you think that's great. I mean, I think it's good. I would, you know, I'm generally of the opinion that the DAO would be well advised to kind of help the company out here. Like we're all in the same, assuming that the players feel that the company is going to spend the money wisely, which I believe that we have not in the past, and we've made significant changes to make sure that we do. So I acknowledge that. But if you believe that the company is going to spend the money wisely to improve the product and therefore improve the value of the assets and the SPS token, I think it would be extremely helpful if the DAO would kind of help out here a little bit. So, yeah, conditional, not conditional, whatever, go for it if you think that's a good proposal. Question from Dave McCoy. Matt, you explained your vision and that would take more time to achieve your longer term objectives of making the game attractive to more players. How confident are you that you will succeed? And what do you think when so many comments are made daily that doubt you? Um, I don't know. I I don't see why we can't be successful at this. Like I really don't. I honestly feel like Splinterlands, it's been around for a while. Most people in the space know the name, but I feel like very few people really have actually tried it out. And it's because we haven't made a big marketing splash about it, right? I've seen so many projects that are really dumb, uh, that have really good marketing, and they make a really big splash and they get tons of people and then they die out very quickly. And I feel like if we can do that, we can replicate those same marketing tactics with the really good, Web3 marketing person. I don't see why we can't get a huge influx of people into the game. So I'm confident that a good marketing person can get that to happen. And I'm also confident that we can get the experience better to where like people come into the game and they actually have a good experience. So, I mean, those two things together are kind of what it takes to be successful. And neither of those things are that hard. Like it's not like build this entirely brand new thing that no one's ever done before. It's like make a good mobile, game website and add onboarding tutorials and things so people can like learn what's going on and one click set rentals so they don't just get thrown in and have to figure things out. Like these are not rocket science. It's just like things that take time and effort to kind of like update our existing game while it's live to do. So I'm like I'm pretty confident that both of those things can happen. We'll get the onboarding experience, the mobile experience to a good place, and then we'll get someone who's really good at marketing and can get a whole lot of eyeballs on this thing. Um, will that end up leading to a ton more players sticking around and spending a lot of money? Like I can't say for sure, but we do seem to be at the appropriate point in the cycle for it. And if this starts happening end of this year, early next year, that's like the timing works out very nicely. I think we can do these things. So I'm like, I don't see why not. I don't see why it wouldn't happen. And what do I think when so many comments are made daily that doubt you? In a way, like I have gotten like depressed a lot in the past. And there's been many times I've thought about, just leaving Splinterlands to not deal with this stuff anymore. But at this point, I'm kind of like, well, I'm set. I know what we're doing. I know how we can do it. We have a good team to do it and put it together. And I'm not going to be up nights every night dealing with issues like I was last bull run. So it's more like, well, let me just prove everybody wrong. And I'm like, if people want to be like all mad and sell out of the game, I want to make it be like the people who got mad and sold out in 2019 and 2020. Um, I'm just going to go ahead and do this, and like people can decide if they want to be a part of it or not. But I totally did not expect what would happen in 2021 and 2022 in this game. Um, and we like did not even have the resources to keep the game running during that time, and we didn't have half the stuff that we have now as far as like actual game experience. So like if we come into another bull market that's remotely similar to that, and we have a game that works and is like 10 times better than we had before, and we have actual good marketing and promotion that's going out and like getting people in, I mean, it's a little crazy to think that it could be a lot bigger than it was in the past. So that's where my head's at, and I'm usually a very conservative person. I'm like the exact opposite of aggroed. But I really try to think this through. I'm like, there's no reason we can't make the game experience a lot better. There's no reason we can't get a good marketing team in here to get the word out to people, and I fully expect there to be, the typical 4-year cycles in the crypto markets. So I just put all that together. That's why I'm still here, and that's why I'm still doing this. So I know I spent a lot of time on that question. I'm
Well, no,
still,
I think people needed to
yeah,
hear it, Matt. I think, and heck, you're getting me excited, and I thought I couldn't get more excited. I'm more excited from you just saying that. If I could just piggyback on it real quick, even though Dave didn't include me in the question, I would say that all the things you said, I want you guys to know that yes, these are things we're working on now, but if you can't wait, like even internally, like we're not waiting months or years to fulfill this vision that Matt is describing. We're doing it this year. And in the meantime, while we are waiting for the big marketing push and the big marketing hires and for the new play experience to be all amazing and stuff, I mean, you see the biweekly updates. I mean, we're constantly improving, constantly making better. And to support that, like I think I had a couple of meetings recently on the creative side where I said, first of all, I said, "Hey, look, I want to see uh, sooner rather than later a little bit more sexy polish to the gameplay experience itself." So even though, like people, like I even in chat right now, I see people saying, Need new game, need marketing, new game, need marketing. I don't know if we need a whole new game. I mean, if tournaments, brawls, land, conflicts, whatever the heck else we have is enough game modes, and then we got ranked play. Like if that's all not enough, then yeah, we'll work on new game modes. But in the meantime, the core game mode we have, which is ranked play, I think the best way to kind of like just improve that whole experience is swap out the background. So it has a cool arena background instead of the stone. Add some new visual effects, which I told, hey, I want our animators to start working on that right now. Like, so when you see a magic attack or a melee attack, or you do an ability, these are things we've ignored for a long time. So I said, hey, you know what? That's a low hanging fruit. Like we could be passing along to the devs, hey, swap out this ability graphic and this special effect and stuff. And little by little, the battle scene, the whole battles 2.0 people are looking for. Before you know it, it's looking better and better and better every single Tuesday update. You see the game looking cooler and cooler. Another meeting I had was with, I told the creative side, hey, look, we really got to support Asaria better than we are. Azaria is trying to like maintain all the social channels, and she really just has enough time to just kind of like educate on the next big update. But there's not a whole lot of hype, and I think people are concerned with the lack of hype. And that, hey, that's not a big deal. We could address that. So I told creative, hey, let's support that better. Let's get some artwork. Let's get some graphics. Let's get Joey and Dan on some narrative copy. Let's improve our game when it comes to social. So guys, we're not just waiting. You're not like sitting on your hands hoping like, well, one day I hope the team does something. No. We're working on it right now. I promise. We're doing stuff now, and hopefully you'll see the fruits of that soon, not a few months from now. So there you go.
Yeah, no, thank you, Nate. And unfortunately, I feel like a couple months will go by after this talk, and everyone will kind of forget these things and back in the slog. But I'll try to keep reminding everybody of this and the goal, and that it's a little while out, but that's what we're working towards. And I think there's 3 more questions. I'm going to get through them. And then I've been literally on calls and stuff since 9 a.m. this morning. So going to have to take a break. Question from Paul TRX. Are you concerned that the people who liked focusing on a certain league and not having the resources to keep buying cards to move up will leave the game? I mean, not any more or less than they would have before. I mean, they can still focus on a certain league. Like they can still, play and be at a certain league level, just like they were before. I don't. It's just that they don't choose. It's the league where they belong. So I don't. I guess I don't get that, and I really still feel that all of this is just like things were a certain way that people were used to or were able to take advantage of, and now that they can't, and they're annoyed. And I don't actually know if any of this would be a problem if it just wasn't different than the way it worked before. I'm not saying that it's not. I just haven't really seen evidence that there's anything actually bad. It's just different and not as exploitable as it was in the past. And the idea is you play and using Glint and getting reward cards is you can earn more cards and move up that way. And also guilds and gladiator cards, which are very influential even in ranked play. So even if you don't want to buy more cards, just playing and focusing where you are, you can get more things that can help you move up too, which is, part of the whole design of this. So, and Nate talked about adding more metagame things with a new like focus type system to keep things interesting. So I'm not overly concerned. Some people may leave the game because they liked how things were or exploited how things were before and they can't do that anymore. And that's fine. And my hope, like I said before, is to have them regret that in a year or two down the line. Extreme Player 63 is asking Matt and team. I first want to say thank you for your faith, grind, development, and vision of the game. I know the temperature of the community is stale, but people need to remember it's a journey, not a sprint. That is true. Yes, definitely journey, not a sprint. Marathon at the least. I was wondering if we could possibly have some type of lottery chest opening in the shop. One of the missing aspects people talk about the most is the jackpot element. Yeah, so we have a bunch of people saying I want specific things in the shop, and we have a bunch of people saying I want random things in the shop. So that's the cool thing about the shop is we can offer both. So I think the plan and the very clear thing is where we will plan to offer both type of things. So the ability to get more specific cards and the ability also to get random stuff. and everyone can just pick and choose what they want. So that seems to be the way to go, and that's why I like this whole Glint system and reward shop system, because we can hopefully try to make everybody happy, at least in this one small regard. Um, Also, any rough idea what the runway is looking like currently with Bitcoin at 70K? Yeah, so runway, I mean, this has always been the difficult thing with like Aggie's numbers and what is said and what's not. Like there's runway of like if we have $0 coming in, right? There's runway assuming a similar amount of revenue coming in. And then there's also, I mean, you specify in this case runway considering token prices staying at the certain point. So like a lot of times when, aggro or people would ask or talk about runway, we'd say, oh, we have X 12 months of runway, but there's a lot of assumptions behind those things. So I don't want to specifically say any monthly numbers of runway because there's lots of different factors that make that up. What I do say is I have no intention of us running out of money at any point. There's a possibility that we have to, reduce expenses even more, but I think there's a lot of options for us to get funding from different sources that's enough to keep us going for quite a while. So um, I don't see any immediate concerns for like getting through the rest of this year at least, and getting to like the vision that I've talked about. And that's really like that's my goal, and that's what I focus on, just making sure we have enough at least to go through the next year. And I believe we do, between what we have in the bank and what's, other things that are like reasonably available. Now obviously things can change, right? If really like nobody buys any promo cards and nobody buys any more rebellion packs, and Bitcoin and crypto prices drop significantly, we can be in a more difficult situation. um and and that's that, but I don't want to give like specific runway numbers because it's hard to calculate with all the different variables. If obviously though, if we were really in any danger of like any significant problems, I would go to the community and the DAO especially, and say that, and just be like, hey, we need this, or else we're gonna have to reduce our team or whatever. And we're 100% not at that position, and I like to think that we won't be at that position anytime soon again. Uh, Based on what I'm seeing. Uh, Last question from Bjangles. I really appreciate you acknowledging all this as a process. Is there a way you can set up focus groups, official data collection, real retention type work, forum with the team to help the process, help gauge stuff, and help make decisions? Pareto's law is in effect with the salt. Yeah, I agree with that. There's lots of us in love the game that want to help. Yeah, so for right now, I feel like we have very clear things that we need to do, that don't really require feedback. Like, we talked about the mobile app, the onboarding experience, all these things. And I'm just trying to just go and get these things done, as well as possible. But then once we get to the point where we're doing like real marketing and promotion, I think that's part of the new marketing team's job, is to do all this stuff. It's not just to get eyeballs into the game, but it's also like to see, okay, these people are coming into the game. What are their retention rates? Where are they dropping off? How can we improve? So that's the type of stuff I look to that team to help work with, is like work with our community, look at data, and like make really informed decisions based on all that. In the meantime, I'm like, we have a bunch of stuff that like just obviously needs to happen. Um, and I'm trying to just make that happen. So that's where we are with that, at least in my opinion. All right, that's the end of the questions. We went about 15 minutes over. Thank you everyone for being a part of this. I apologize if certain people's rewards are less than they were. Things are different. We're working towards that same long-term plan of getting a lot more players into this game, sustainably, like getting them hooked on this game. And we're targeting later this year, early next year, to do that, which I think is a great timing, if history is any guide. So if you're here for that, we're here with you. And I will talk to you again in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.
This is a story.